So now we're going to do a brief overview of the Black Prana method, and it's the method to which I like to teach basically kind of everything that we do, where it comes from, and why I feel as though it is of importance. So the Black Prana method itself is our signature kind of liberatory yoga methodology. It's the framework um, that to which we practice by. And I feel as though it drives how we show up on the mat and how I hope to teach and present to you in a way of reclaiming yoga as a tool for liberation that you can bring your full self to your experience and your practice. We acknowledge that yoga's roots that come from both India and the continent of Africa. And we state the need that representation and inclusivity and liberation is equally as important as lineage. Um, I kind of refer to this method as a living lineage because it's more about what are we doing in community as a whole, and how do we get to a space where you do see more uh, you do see a better representation of society at large in yoga classes. It is not just a one size fits all. So our 5 pillars for the Black Prana method are liberated cueing, moving in away from colonial body shaming cues. So, so again, there is not a one size body that shows up to your class. There's a one size body that is particularly marketed to, and a particular aesthetic that yoga tends to be marketed to in the Western world. However, we also know that that's not how everybody shows up to class. Centering language that honors real bodies, teaching examples instead of teaching examples and providing ways for people to see themselves fully in their practice. So if we were going to provide a cue that says straighten your legs, maybe we would say extend your legs, because an extension gives you an opportunity to find the fullness of that posture for yourself and your body, whereas straighten, somebody may not have the availability to straighten. And now something that simple that may seem that innocuous has pulled that person out of their experience in class. And we want to be mindful that we're not doing that. And it's not that hard of an ask to put forth some effort when it comes to the words that we use. Cultural reclamation, making sure that we are telling the whole history of yoga and what's available as well. Because here's the other thing too. Yoga as a whole is taught about the Indian origins of the practice. There's also a portion of it that comes from Africa as well. And the idea that humanity would start on the continent and nothing else would does not necessarily make sense to me. So it does make sense that yoga was practiced in places and spaces like Egypt as well. So we do talk about those things throughout the training. Recognizing how colonization has erased and distorted yoga lineages. It's more so of the capitalization of things that is a product of the Western world directly. So we come to this with an awareness that that is something that is happening. Then honoring the diaspora practice, drumming movement, that call and response. You'll hear when I teach that kind of happens, but that's because that is unique to the Black experience. So that tends to come through in the way in which I teach. Talking about somatic sovereignty, every student has the authority over their body. If there's something that is taking place in class that makes you feel uncomfortable, that you are just not vibing with, you have the full authority to say, that ain't for me, boss. Don't want it. No, thank you. This especially is really important in the climate of yoga that's existed for a very long time. I was going to say that's going on right now, but in all reality, that's existed for a very long time. So making sure that students know that no matter what, no matter where they are in their practice, beginner, middle, advanced, whatever it has been, this is your first yoga class or your 1000th yoga class, that you have full sovereignty over your body and get to control how you experience your class and can leave if something does not serve you. We're not going to weaponize the teachings of yoga in order to cause harm or discomfort for ourselves. We're going to honor ourselves in that way, or as teachers to any other students, because that's absolutely trash and awful, and not what it's here for in the first place. Encouraging choice, encouraging rest, encouraging modifications where they're necessary. And modifications are made to accommodate the bodies that are in the room. It's not necessarily an adjustment, because an adjustment comes with a connotation that something is wrong to begin with. However, a modification gives space for the posture to meet the student where they are, as opposed to the student trying to catch up to the posture all the time. Practice integration always allows at least 3 variations per posture. So giving people a mild, medium, and hot version of whatever posture we happen to be working on. Radical rest and resistance is number 4. Rest as a revolutionary act for Black and marginalized body, because we know what work looks like. We know we are very well acquainted to be a part of grind and hustle culture. So we are making it a point to not continue to subscribe to those types of things, to subscribe to that model, to give ourselves the space and place to grow and just fully be. So using Shavasana, restorative postures, and breath work as tools of liberation, linking yoga nidra and deep rest to social justice, just giving the mind, the body, the spirit an opportunity to decompress, because the world can and is heavy, can be and is heavy. We talk liberation in addition to lineage, breaking free from gatekeeping mentality or organization or colonized requirements. That is to say that this version of yoga is the only version of yoga, and it's the only one that is good enough. And if you do anything else, then you're not living this yogic, or you're not yogic enough to be represented in the space. Putting an emphasis on lived experience, cultural respect, and liberation as the standard, saying that people's lived experiences carry value and are inherently important on their own, without having to, without feeling as though you're taking away from someone else. So the certification, just working towards a more broader kind of community-based connection, that essentially is the Black Prana method as a whole. So the other way in which we like to teach is we leverage what's referred to as the CREATE teaching method. So it's a practical teaching sequence, and it's a part of the whole of the Black Prana method. So that is to cue, give clear, inclusive, and concise instructions. Remember, call students back to their breath and their presence while they're on their mat. Engaging in foster community connection in their practice. Are we breathing and moving and connecting together? Activate, encourage deeper awareness. What is going on in your physical body as we're moving through this posture, not what it looks like. Teach, offer, acknowledge, offer knowledge rooted in liberation. Are the words that you're using and the experience that you're offering giving bodies the freedom to move in a way in which that serves that student that's on that mat in front of you? And lastly, elevate. Close with inspirational or affirming students' power. Remember, if your students do not continue to come to your class, you will not have the ability to teach to people. So we want to make sure that we're elevating students in a way that serves them and they continue to come back to this experience. It is not necessarily about what you can physically do and what physical asana you can pump out up front and in front of the classroom. It is very much about that student's experience on that mat while they're in the class with you. All right, so ways in which we connect these pillars and how it's different than how yoga has been taught. There's been a lot of I do, you do this, I do this, you do this, follow along, everybody be a good duck. And if you're less than a good duck, then somehow you are way out of line. If you're anything less than whatever the yoga standard is in that moment, then you don't belong here. So the way in which we teach is very much community based and giving people the space to bring their full self to their practice and show up to the mat however they need to in that moment to get what they need out of that class's experience. Um, and we offer teachers an opportunity to create awareness around what they may need to change in the words that they use to teach with, in the way they're presenting themselves in class, to provide students an opportunity to honor their own sovereignty while they're on the mat. Um, and when we do that, when we give students the opportunity to fully immerse themselves in their overall yoga experience, that's where the magic happens. That's where the opportunity for magic to happen comes from. Without that, more about us, and it's way less about the students that we are teaching to. It's just, and then that's where things go astray. When it is more about us as teachers that are standing in front of the room and are experiencing their practice, I feel like that's when things go left. So liberation, in addition to lineage, it all matters. Students should have the opportunity, once again, as I said before, to have sovereign control over their body and their experience. If they don't like it, if they're not comfortable, they're well within their rights to move on and not stay there, and not continue to come to that class. And as teachers, I encourage you, don't take it personally. Don't take it personally, because it may not have a darn thing to do with you. It may have everything, and probably does have everything to do with that person and their lived experience. However, what you do want to do as a teacher is honor and acknowledge, okay, this person is experiencing discomfort. What can I do in order to aid them in not feeling this level of discomfort? How can I support them as a person, as an individual, as opposed to going, okay, well, go back to your mat, it's fine, or dismissing their feelings or dismissing their concerns surrounding how they feel in their own body on the mat. If someone tells you no, that they're uncomfortable, they get to be uncomfortable. You don't get to take that personally. Um, and for students also, we talked about this before when we were talking about yamas and niyamas. You have the ability to set a full boundary of how you're going to comport yourself and go, nope, this isn't for me. This class isn't for me. This experience isn't for me. I have zero desire to come back to this thing. And you know what? That's okay. You get to not come back. You get to say that this isn't my bag. This isn't the thing that I want to do. This isn't something that I am interested in. So the Black Family Yoga method includes, as I said, create one more time just to review it, is cue. So giving clear, concise, and inclusive cues. Remember students to call back to their breath, is to continue to connect them to their practice. Engage, we're fostering community connection within the practice. Deeper awareness of their physical experience. Are they somewhere out in the room, or are they internally checking into their body to see how these things are going, to see how their body is experiencing the class and what is going on around them? Teach, offer knowledge rooted in liberation. Again, this is their practice, their movement, their experience. How are they feeling as this is going on? Are we offering them modifications in order to provide them the opportunity to see themselves in that posture, or are we asking them to adjust and meet the posture where it is? It should definitely be the other way around. We should be offering modifications so the posture can meet them where they are, in order to grow into whatever the next phase of that posture may look like, if it even changes at all. And then lastly, elevate, closing with some sort of inspiration. As I just said a moment ago, students who do not feel inspired or do not feel some means of connection or healing as far as they are concerned, whatever those terms look like for them, will not come back to class. If it feels like if they continue to feel defeated, if they continue to feel as though they don't fit, they won't come back, and no student deserves to experience that in a yoga class. And I've heard many horror stories. I've been teaching long enough, unfortunately, to have heard many horror stories. So there is something that definitely needs to change in order for us to continue to provide such a wonderful service and experience for folks that really do need it. Because let's face it, many students come to yoga as a, hey, you're really stressed out, you should go take that yoga class. I cannot tell you how many times that I have heard that, and how many folks have shown up that told me yoga was a good stress reliever. Let's let it be, and looks like for that person in their need to be on the mat and be in that moment. It's okay, and it's not for us to judge. It's also not for us to talk about with other teachers. Let that person have their experience and do what we can to honor it. So to review the time, so liberated cueing, moving away from colonized body shaming cues. Not everybody's yoga body looks like everybody else's yoga body, and as it shouldn't. So we want to make sure that we offer cues that connect the general public to their practice. That is what we're doing as teachers 99.9% of the time when someone comes into the yoga studio. Centering language that honors real bodies. Flexibility is relative to the person that you're standing in front of, not making assumptions about someone's flexibility and or their experience just because of what you've been told yoga is supposed to look like. Offering space for students to find themselves in the posture. Then a cultural reclamation, yoga's roots. We talked about this and its connections. Recognizing how colonization has erased or distorted yoga lineages. So there's an awareness there. We cannot pretend that race and racism and colonization and that it's happened throughout society does not have any bearing on how yoga is received, experienced, and practiced within studios. Let's not pretend that that's not the case. Okay, let's be honest with ourselves that the way in which we teach and connect with people is affected by that. So honoring the diaspora of the practice, so be it drumming, movement, a call and response expression, things that are intrinsic culturally, and in my case to the African American experience, comes out in the way in which I teach. It would be ridiculous if it didn't. As a Black woman who runs a Black-owned business, who leads a very Black life, you're gonna get that when I show up to teach, because that's who I am, and that's what I know. So asking your students to be anything different would be quite ridiculous. So people show up as they are. And then we talked about somatic sovereignty. So everybody has the authority over their body, encouraging choice, rest, and modification. Modifications are a manner in bringing the posture to the student as opposed to dragging the student towards the posture. Practice integration, always offering at least 3 variations of a posture, a mild, medium, and hot version. In the case of marginalized folks and minorities, radical rest is resistance. Rest is revolutionary because we know that bodies have been commodified for many, maybe hundreds of years in many cases. So giving space for rest, and rest is not a reward. Rest is something that you get to take whenever your system, body, your spiritual health needs it. Using Shavasana, restorative postures, and breath work is also important as well. And let's see. Lastly, we talked about Tayaboa, liberation, and just kind of breaking free of those gatekeeping organizations that tend to keep people out or just say or make the arbitrary rules of not belonging and not giving people the space and place to connect. So that is our overview of the Black Prana method. Do you have any questions regarding?
No.
Okay. Okay. So is now it is now 11:53. We're gonna take a longer break. We're gonna break until 2. So that is what schedule is because I know I just dumped a shit ton of information at you in a few hours time. So we're going to take a longer lunch break and then we'll come back. Let me look at the schedule really quick.